Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy the young man we're interviewing today. His name's Joseph McCabe. And Joseph reminds me of me because he is absolutely a shiny penny guy. So he has the largest ReMax office in PA, New Jersey, and I think Delaware and New York. He also is a CEO of a mortgage company, investing in a insurance business, a title business. Oh, he is incredibly vertically integrated. And so we're going to have a lot of fun on today's conversation. And, you know, he's also a vet, which, I want to thank him for, and really making things happen for 27 years old. So very impressive. Joseph, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Rod. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk a little bit about how you have all of that going on at your age, and maybe how you got started. I don't know if you got started with a love for real estate or, how that all manifested. So take us back a little bit and give us, expand on how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. So how I got started had nothing to do with real estate. I never knew anything about real estate. And frankly, I didn't have any interest in it. My whole thing was I started college at Penn State. I did 2 years there. It was kind of a lifelong dream. I was joining the Army one way or another. Both grandpops were in, and that was my thing. And 2 years into Penn State, I switched my job, and I said I wanted to be an agent with Army CID. And they said, well, as weird as it sounds, you can't be an officer and be an Army CID. You can only be senior enlisted. So I ended up enlisting in the Army after sophomore year, going through my whole reserve training, and when I got out, I started going back to college at Cabrini, and Cabrini College, local to Philly. And I immediately was going straight into the police department. I was just going lifelong career, law enforcement.
Your dad was a cop, right?
My dad was a cop too. Yep. Yeah. So I was like, I'm doing this. I had a start date and everything for the police department of, I think it was December 30th of 2015, same day as my birthday, which was pretty funny. Wow. And maybe like the month prior to that, I had met a Philadelphia police lieutenant who was friends with my dad, who owned his own brokerage and a small mom and pop shop. And we kind of decided real estate brokerage. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of teamed up. I was part-time selling at Keller Williams. I just got my real estate license for the hell of it. I was training people at LA Fitness, and this guy was like, you should get your real estate license. Come work with me along at Foster. So I did that for a bit, but I wasn't making any money. But I did start to see at Keller Williams how you could integrate so many different things in the real estate industry, and they're also closely related: title insurance, mortgage, homeowners insurance, home warranties, and the amount of kind of pre-tax money that you have to spare that you could kind of put into different deals. So I would say within less than a year, I decided I was buying my own franchise and opening my own title company. I just didn't know how yet. And next thing I knew, I owned a ReMax. So I gave up on the police department thing, bought a ReMax, and just kind of started recruiting agents, opened up a title company maybe 6 months later. A year after that, I opened up a...
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
How the hell did you buy a ReMax at 23 years old? Where'd you get the money? How'd you
An
put
American Express card.
Seriously?
Yeah, I put it all on American Express. They had just given me the card, and it was 0% interest for 12 months or something. So the platinum card too. So it was more in fees than it cost me to buy the franchise. And I was like, 2 real estate deals will pay it off. Well, ReMax requires you to have actual space. So we did have to rent space, 1,500 square feet somewhere. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we were just, I was like, I didn't know a lot of agents. That broker didn't know a lot of agents. He didn't even have a big company. He had 4 people. But I figured if we just did more recruiting than everybody else, and we just took more action than everybody else, we'd grow the business. And that's what we did.
Well, Keller Williams is fantastic framework and proving ground for you because, what an incredible operation Gary Keller has put together. I interviewed his partner on my podcast, the educational. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Sure.
It's embarrassing. But anyway, yeah, what a great framework for you to start from. So I interrupted you. So you did the real estate, then you started the title. Then what was after that? Please
and then so about a year and a half into having the ReMax franchise, ReMax goes public. And after they go public, they then announce that they have a mortgage franchise, Motto Mortgage. And I was like, well, this seems interesting. I mean, at the time, we only had five to 10 agents. And it was going to be pretty tough to make that profitable and be compliant and everything else. But we gave it a shot. And the franchise wasn't the best, but I saw the tweaks that needed to be made to make it really good and have a mortgage franchise. So we dropped that franchise, Motto Mortgage, and we ended up opening up Homefront Mortgage. And that's, again, maybe 2 years into us owning a ReMax. So that was fun. They threatened to sue us in federal court and all that stuff. So I got some bruises early on. But we got through it. We opened up the franchise, and I ended up getting on, this is pretty funny. I had no intention of taking the mortgage company national, zero. But I met Pat Hyben. I forget exactly how, but he has his Real Estate Rockstars.
And I get on his. That don't know Pat. Pat has a podcast, and he it's geared towards real estate agents. I've had him on my show, and he's been on mine. I mean, vice versa. I've been on his a couple times actually. So please, sorry, I just want to give some background.
You're good. Yeah, it's a good show, and I'm in GoBundance with him now too.
Oh, nice.
So that's been a lot of fun, and those guys have taught me a lot of stuff too. But
Okay, stop. I got to tell everybody what you said. So GoBundance, guys, this is this awesome mastermind that Pat, I think, is really ingrained in. He's been trying to get me in it for years. I just can't carve out the time. But they travel all over the world, do all sorts of cool stuff, and it's all about abundance, really. And it's an incredible group of people. Guys, I think it's just men, but it's an incredible group. So please continue.
Yeah. So I get on his show, and later that night after it launches, I think it was like 2 months later, after the editing was done, I wake up to calls on my cell phone at like 7 a.m. from, I would say, 9 to 12 different brokers. Wow. And I'm returning these calls, and I get to the second call, and I'm like, shit, what am I doing? I'm giving away all this information. And they want to know, how did you open a title company and a mortgage company? Now, to me, that was just common sense, because in the Philadelphia area, every real estate broker has a title company. Well, in the Midwest and the West Coast, apparently it's not commmen sense, and not everybody does that.
No.
So I'm like, well, you know what? Actually, we have a JV platform. We'll open a mortgage company with you and a title company. And by the end of that year, we had 9 companies under license, 5 of which are open now, 2 in California, 1 in Arizona that actually just got approved, 1 in Virginia, 1 in Connecticut, Delaware, and then, of course, our local branches here in Philly. So we got really lucky. Yeah, we got really lucky with that. And Pat Hyben took us national on his show.
Oh, good for him.
That was my first podcast experience.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, that's awesome that you saw an opportunity. You took advantage of it. So you've got the mortgage company, you've got the title company, you've got the real estate company. You also have a small Allstate office, and you're 27 years old. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And
I get tired reading it, let alone saying it. Wow.
Well, and that's why, like, being connected with those GoBundance guys, I was like, it's going to get to a point where, I'm 27, I'm single, I don't have very many expenses. I live pretty cheaply, and I just have my house, and my dog. So I was like, well, I have a little bit of expendable income, and there's only so much I can pour into this office before it's like, you just got to recruit. So this year we ended up dipping into an aviation business. We ended up buying 2 airplanes that we're renting to a flight school. We ended up buying a bar that the guy put on Facebook that he was closing up. And I was like, well, is the real estate included? He sold us the whole bar for literally 50% of what it's worth, including the real estate. A healthcare business down in Houston, Texas, home healthcare. So I guess it's just to say that being around these guys in GoBundance and other guys that are really big into investing, it was kind of like you reinforced me again, which I already knew. You don't really have to know how to do anything. You just kind of have to jump in and do it. And sometimes it's the only way you're going to learn.
Well, and you'll have some seminars along the way. There's just no question.
Sure.
And
Let me ask you this, because the kind of hair on the back of my neck went up a little bit when you started talking about a bar and these non-vertically integrated businesses that you're getting into. Are you managing those, or do you have?
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right, so same with the airplane. The airplane, the best way to explain that was I was going to get my pilot's license. I had a guy early on who, single family and multifamily is always funny, right? There's the guys who are in multifamily who are like, you got to buy multi. That's the only way to go. But then the single family guys are complete opposite. They're like, no, it's got to be single family. I'm in the middle. I just want to make money. So I'll buy anything as long as it makes money. And there's a guy in Philly, Bob Mazer, who kind of was one of the initial driving forces into getting me to consider real estate. He's 92 now.
Wow.
And he's still an active pilot. And he was always saying, you really got to get your pilot's license. It's a lot of fun. You can fly out of Northeast Philly. So I finally went in and I'm talking to the guy who owns the flight school. And I was like, wow, it's $15,000 for a private pilot for 30 hours. Seems kind of crazy. And he's like, well, we are short on planes, and he jokes. He's like, if you guys buy us a plane, you don't have to pay for the flight school. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, well, how much will you rent the plane for? He's like 40 an hour. And I was like, all right, cool. The next day we called him. We had lined up 2 planes we're going to buy. And they 100% financed it. These lenders 100% financed it for us back in March. The guy's paying us $40 an hour with a minimum of $2,000 a month, which means we make $1,000 profit. And they manage it. They handle all the maintenance. They pay all the insurance. So everything is passive. Same with the bar. We found a guy that he owns the Inlet in Wildwood, Puri Garzone. So he's coming. It's a huge bar in New Jersey, really popular. And so he's going to manage that for us. So we're really just investors in these other businesses, but
yeah, so the reason I asked him this is because focus is power. And if you dilute, and this is an ask me how I know thing. Those of you who've been to my live events know I sell t-shirts that say ask me how I know, because I've made every possible mistake you can make. And one of the mistakes was having too many plates spinning at the same time, too many businesses. At one time I had, I was flipping houses. I had frozen yogurt shops. I had vending carts. I had a carpet cleaning business. And I just had way too many things happening, but I was managing them all. So you've done it right. The way to do it is you bring in an operational partner that has equity and you let them manage it. And then you can have all these other businesses going. Very impressive. Okay. So, I'd like to dig in a little bit to how you think, because you've given us two kind of little clues. You really, I think you have a knack for finding or seeing potential opportunity. Can you speak to that a little bit? Do you know where that comes from, or maybe speak to how you approach something or look at something that may cause, these opportunities to pop up for you?
I guess one of the biggest things, one of the big entrepreneurial guys that I started to follow in the beginning before I had kind of found anybody else, it was just kind of like, I was looking for inspiration and I just opened ReMax and starting a new business sucks. So I found Grant Cardone and I was like, wow, this is really reinforceful. I mean, he's obviously super abrasive about certain things, but for most of it, it's kind of like, well, you know what, all I have is the fact that I can keep going and keep recruiting, and I can keep calling, I can keep texting agents. And so I guess I just started to look at what other people had. And it seemed like there were a lot of people that were just buying real estate or flipping houses, and they were trying really hard to do that. And then there were a lot of people that had a business that was providing them a lot of free cash flow that they were then investing in other opportunities or investing in real estate themselves. And I was like, that's what I need to do. I knew I was very controlling. So I knew that in the real estate business, I had to be the guy. I had to be the manager. I had to be the hands-on guy that makes the final call. But on the real estate side, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to manage my own properties. I didn't even want to really look at the numbers. I was very big on what's that net number? Am I comfortable paying off all the debt? Am I 100% sure that this puts me at as almost zero risk as possible? So that was the other big thing. I don't really fall in love with deals, and I try to decentralize everything. I try to push everything off that I can and let those people.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Decentralize, push everything off. Expand on that.
Almost like decentralized command in the sense that, I do have a partner on the one real estate deal who used to be a Philly cop, and I let him make all decisions on those properties. And if he comes to me if he needs to. So I try to, trust the process, trust but verify. I look at reports monthly, but I try to step back and focus on what got me to where I am now, which is growing the real estate business and, sending deals to that title company and that mortgage company. And every now and then I look for deals, and I just look for something that's going to cash flow, that isn't going to put me in a tough spot later on, basically. So nothing that's too risky. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, like a tech company or anything like that. So.
No. Good. Well, I know you've got 150 properties. There's single and multi in there, and that's fantastic. And I like some of the things you said, trust but verify, but you've leveraged so that you're focused on income producing activity for yourself, and you're not outside your wheelhouse, which is really, really brilliant. That you got that memo at your age already. So, and it sounds like you've leaned on a lot of mentors between this 92-year-old guy and the GoBundance team. I mean, those are all multimillionaires. What an incredible, story you've got now. So what's next for you? What's on the horizon? I think before we started recording, you mentioned you'd like to get into more multifamily. Yes.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, multifamily makes so much sense.
Right.
If we didn't need, and I look at it the same way as my real estate offices. I mean, if we didn't need 4 offices in the city, I wish we could just have one set of rent payments, one place to do maintenance. And that's how I look at multifamily. It's like right now we have 150 scatter site properties. That's a lot of money to manage. There's a lot of maintenance. Every air conditioner is different, that type of thing. Whereas with multifamily, it's one roof, maybe one HVAC system, one property management person in-house. Every unit's probably the same. So that's something now that my partner Carl and I have a little more credibility on the real estate side, and obviously such a large real estate brokerage, it's a lot easier for us to market ourselves. And we're partnering with some people now on putting together some multifamily deals, and
fantastic.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting. It almost sounded like deja vu as you were talking about, single family being spread out, everything being different. I don't know if you've ever heard me interviewed about my story, but that's exactly how I crashed and burned in 2008, because I had 800 houses that were spread out over a 4-hour stretch, and just very, very difficult to manage, and maintenance cost a fortune because everything's different. But if I sent somebody to one of my apartment complexes, they're in and out in an hour versus all day at one of these houses. And, and that was one of the big things that hurt my cash flow and, caused me to lose $50 million in 2008. Again, very impressed that you got that memo already, my friend, because that's absolutely right. And you've got some property, and you're going to find that if you had a 150 unit complex, there'd be you'd spend an hour a week on a phone with your third party property management company. That'd be it. That'd be your involvement in the deal. And so, versus all the headaches that you have with 150 different properties. So let me ask you this. You've got this big ReMax. How many agents do you have in your
We just hit about 140 now.
Wow, guys, that's huge. If you don't know the real estate brokerage business, that's a huge office. And so tell me about how you put your team together, okay? Mm-hmm. Because you can't manage that by yourself. So talk about how you put it together, what you look for. Maybe even drill down on a little bit of your recruiting and interviewing methodology, just the sorts of things that you do in that vein. Take it wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, a lot of what I got was from Keller Williams and their platform. I wasn't in the real estate business long until I bought my own franchise. And the reason I bought ReMax was it was the cheapest one to buy, and I had the most freedom. I could kind of do whatever I wanted. So, and I kind of knew that thing about Grant Cardone, right? It was like, just blanket it, be omnipresent, approach everybody. So that's what I did. I recruited every agent I possibly could. And I set it up in a way that even if that agent didn't produce, the fees that they paid and everything else, it was never a loss to us. It was never a loss for them to call me, because the one thing that Keller did right is their split was decent, but they didn't give leads. So the training is great, but if you don't have leads, you didn't have anything to apply it to. So we cut our commission split in half. Like around here, most Keller Williams are 70-30. We're 85-15. Most KWs, their caps between 25 and 30,000. We're 15,000. And And then we charge a monthly fee if you're not producing. So if you don't do at least a deal a month, you have to pay the $237 a month, which goes to corporate, which is a hard cost to us. So we're never losing. But the trade-off is we're going to actually give you all that training KW says they have. We have all that. We're also going to give you leads. So now day one, you're getting that training. You're implementing those with a real buyer live. You know, we're not wasting your time. We're not just role playing. You're out there screwing up for real. And I'm there to help you save it. And our big thing was, if we ran the real estate company lean enough and we ran the title company lean enough, the profits from title always outweigh real estate. I mean, it's insane. So, and then we threw mortgage in there. So it was like, we'll make it a no-brainer for agents to come. You have leads, you have the best split, you have the training. We'll even give you, if you stay for 2 years, ownership in title and mortgage. Of course, you have to buy in because of RESPA, but we'll give you the opportunity to do that in 2 years. So we set up a pretty nice system, and agents love it. They come, they stay, and I actually did acquire another ReMax too.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
well,
so I grew my agency to 70, and then I ended up purchasing affiliates.
That was a great pitch for agents. You say that. That was a great pitch. Wasn't what I was looking for, but a great pitch for agents. Sure. What I really was looking for was a little deeper than that, and really,
sure.
You know, who are the key members on your team? Like, talk about that. You got your partner. Do you have any operational people? I mean, just talk about your team in general. I'm talking higher level team, not the agents.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So each office, the way we run it, we have 3 real estate offices and then an office for title. Each real estate office can be run by one person. And so I have one office manager in each location, and everything is 100% digital. So everything from, commission checks to files, it's all online. Never hand us paper. So we were able, once we made those changes, one person handles payroll and onboarding, which is our biggest task, payroll and onboarding at each office. And then there's 2 people that handle conveyancing for all 3 offices. And so those are my concrete people. And then my partner, Carl, who owns all those properties with me and who recently resigned from the police department, he actually does recruiting for us full time. So we knew that if our time is spent on anything else other than recruiting, then we're not being the most effective. We're not making the most money. So that is our, like Gary Keller, that's the one thing, right? I mean, the one thing that we could be doing is recruiting. And that's what we focus on.
He's referencing Gary Keller's book called The One Thing. It's an awesome book, by the way. And like I said, I interviewed his co-author, and it's going to be embarrassing me that I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, what do you, and the reason I'm hammering this team thing is multifamily is a team sport. And so as you get into this business, you're going to be building a team. You're going to be aligning, of course, with outside team members like brokers, property managers, bankers, appraisers, and things of that nature. But you're also likely to align with an internal team, a partner or a sponsor, or you'll be raising equity, maybe joint venture. And so that's kind of where I was going, is to, when you're building this team of people, maybe the managers, for example, are there any traits that you look for? Or, what sort of due diligence do you do? What sort of questions might you ask? I mean, what are you looking for in these people that you're giving so much responsibility to?
I guess the biggest thing is loyalty, and then buying into the vision, because if they don't really understand where you're taking it and the age of the company, and kind of how hard it is to start a business from scratch, especially any type of real estate related business. It's not like a tech company where we make 60 million in 1 year. You're living off a little bit of rent every month, or a split from an agent's commission. Loyalty has probably been the biggest lifesaver for me. And then even more importantly, knowing what you're good at and not good at. And when you're first starting a business, I guess you don't have a choice. You have to wear every single hat.
Right.
But the second that I was able to start passing off that payroll and passing off that recruiting and having people help me with recruiting and trusting them, you have to put blind trust into people. And that was the first thing. And you may not always, and I didn't many times, make the right hire. You probably won't most of the time, but you can try to inspire them and make sure that, we started doing personality tests so that I, who with my military background, can be a little abrasive and, hey, go do this. And it sounds a little bit like F you, but really it's just how I am. And I feel other people should be that way. So we do a personality test. more so I know how to interact with that person. And so that I remember to remind them, hey, you're doing a great job, or, you know, thanks for answering that email right away at midnight. So the hiring thing, you know, that's probably the biggest piece in finding someone that loves loyal.
Let me circle back on a couple of things you said, because I want to
Sure.
hammer them home. Number one, you know, and you guys have heard me talk about this on the show time and time again. You've got to play to your strengths. You need to hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. And Joseph discovered that early on. That, you know, you don't want to be doing accounting. You're not doing payroll, for God's sakes. That's not a good use of your time. So leveraging all of those things. And then the other thing was the whole personality testing. We do that as well in my company. There's so many different kinds: Myers-Briggs, DISC profile, all these things. And you know, it's how you're able to interact with people that are different than you are. And it's so powerful. And even if you're going to align in a partnership with someone in this multifamily business, I encourage you both to do a personality test to see how well aligned you are. Because if you've got two bulls in the china closet, you know, that doesn't work. You really need complementing personality types and skill sets. You agree with me, Joseph?
100%. That's where Carl and I play him perfect. He's the numbers guy. He can spreadsheet shit all day. But without me, there wouldn't be deals.
Right.
So we fit in perfectly. And he's 100% okay with the fact that, you know, I'm the aggressive one. I'm going to go make a deal and then call you and say, yo, I made a deal. And he's okay with that because he knows at a high level that deal makes sense. It makes money. Now he just has to figure out the rest. He has to figure out the exit and everything else. So we work really well together. And cool story about Carl, actually, I usually mention this. Him and I went to grade school together. My mom taught him. He's a year younger than me and all of his sisters. And we reconnected right after the year after I bought ReMax. I set up this deal in Pittsburgh where the seller was going to finance 70 properties for us. And it was time for me to exit. It was time for me to do the refi. And I still didn't have any money because I had just started ReMax. I mean, I had like probably $5,000. And he happens to message me on Instagram and say, hey, I just bought a house 6 months ago, my primary, but I have 20 grand. I'm looking to buy a duplex. So if you ever need 20 grand, you know, if you find anything in the Northeast, let me know. And I said, well, do you want to buy 70? And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, let's meet tomorrow. I was like, but you're going to have to trust me on this, and you're going to have to wire Finance of America $70 or $20,000 tomorrow. And he did. And luckily he reached out to me, and that's how we reconnected.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's a cool story.
It was cool.
Yeah, that's not letting the grass grow, man. That's massive free connection. Now, do this. Talk about a mistake that you made. There's got to be tons of them, but I want to hear about a doozy, okay? Because you're a fire-ready aim guy like me. I'm you know, and then it gets cleaned up later. So tell me about a mistake and maybe the lesson learned.
I would say the biggest thing was falling in love with a deal, but I don't just mean real estate. I mean falling in love with what a real estate agent or any person could bring to your life without maybe thinking it through or making sure that they really are a good fit for you. Mm-hmm. And so that first partner, who I haven't mentioned since, the lieutenant on Philly's police department, you know, that guy's making 120 grand a year, and he's been doing that for 30 some years. He is happy. He is not interested in being worth $10 million. He's not interested in growing 140 agents, but you know, he was very comfortable. And, you know, I made that mistake of really not digging into, and I didn't know to do it at the time, dig into what would that potential partner or agent want in the future? Because it was a messy exit, getting him out of my title company, my real estate company, him taking 10 agents with him, you know, that was a mess. It was a lesson I had to learn, and thank God I learned it in the first 6 months of the business. But just make sure that you align with people. That is probably more important than anything else. And the other big piece.
Sorry. You said several things. The alignment. I want you to drill down on the alignment. But you also said you glossed over something really fast. If what I'm hearing is that you need to know what they want for the future, because you know the comfort zone's a warm place, but nothing freaking grows there. And he was comfortable, and he didn't want to grow. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. He was totally comfortable, and you know, he would come in the office at 3 p.m. when I've been there since 8 at the latest, and I'm working till 11 p.m., you know, and he's like, yeah, what are you working so hard for? Like, because I don't have a salary, you know?
Right. You gotta check out their work ethic, guys. And I've had partnerships go south, and it's always been work ethic. You know, who do you, just like you, Joseph, who do you think put in the most time? And that gets frustrating. It builds dissonance, and you're just not happy after a while because you're killing yourself and they're skating. So, please continue your thought. What was the other thing you were going to say?
I was going to say two more things. The other thing that would have been pretty helpful with dealing with a partner like that is if I had known myself better and known, which I know now, I can partner with people who aren't going to work as hard as me. Because I already know that's going to be the case. I already know that I'm getting up at 6 and I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. I already know that that's me. So I no longer get mad at people that don't work as hard. I now realize that normal humans take vacations and they take breaks and they take naps. I still don't understand it, but I'm more cognizant of that. So, be fair to other people and realize that no one's ever going to do it as good as you. And no one's, you're never going to be able to hire someone that can fully replace you. But human capital is important. And then respecting them, throughout that process is important too.
I'm going to only disagree with one thing you've said this entire interview. And that was no one's going to do it as good as you. And I promise you, as you get long of tooth like me, you're going to recognize that there are people out there that can actually do it better than you. But it takes a while because you're a control freak like me. I get it. It takes a while for you to get that memo, but I promise you will. And you'll have your core strengths and your things that you're fantastic at. And as it relates to that, yes, maybe you will not encounter someone that does it better than you. But anyway, well, listen, buddy, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a treat for me. You're a real inspiration. And I hope you're inspired by this as well. This is not my normal interview with a multifamily, rock star with thousands of units. This is, but very impressed and inspired. And I hope you are as well by his story and the value that he's added. I appreciate you being on the show, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks, Rod. I'm glad I was able to come on.
You bet.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411.